Hello, QPR fans, Players TV, home and away. Deejay Ranger back in the place once again with another exclusive ex-QPR player interview. This time, it's with the one, the only Mr. Garry Thompson. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. Bearing up in the COVID scenario, pandemic we're in at the minute. I mean, I've been lucky enough, I've been predominantly going to work. So, unfortunately for others, they've been furloughed, etc. and so forth. How about yourself? Are you still involved in the football scene? Or what are you up to?
Well, I do a bit of radio work, so I cover Aston Villa for the BBC. So I travel up and down the country doing the Villa games. Obviously, with COVID, we can't really. We have to do it. We can do Villa Park, but every away game we have to do from our home. So they give us equipment as we watch the game, and we commentate on the game there. So I do that. Also, I deliver fancy cars for very wealthy people. Obviously, with the COVID thing, it's not as much now. We can't travel as much, but we're still working at the minute.
Okay. What's that like doing that as well? The car stuff and that.
Well, it's something I just fell into. My first wife took ill. I was a director for a PR company, and decided just because she took ill, decided to take a bit of time off work. Obviously, not realising that at our age, once you come out of work, it's kind of difficult to get back in. And one of my mates, Jimmy Brown, used to play for Aston Villa. He said to me, "Oh, big man, do you want to do some of this driving, like delivering fancy cars?" And I was like, "Nah, not interested." But after about a week of sitting at home, I thought, well, I'll try it. And I've been doing it for a couple of years now. But yes, it's all right. It passes the time. got a good bunch of lads I work with, and they're all football people.
I mean, you do the radio work for Villa and stuff. I mean, obviously, I know you play for like Coventry and a few other Midland clubs as West Brom and stuff like that throughout the year. And other clubs as well. But as you say, like, you know, if you're lucky to fall into like doing some media work for football after you've stopped playing, that's what I'm sure quite a lot of them do that. I mean, not everyone does. Yeah. They get involved in other businesses, etc., and so forth. And as you say, it keeps you busy as well. I mean, you know, even okay, at the minute with the pandemic we're in, you know, maybe it's not as busy and stuff, and you know, circumstances. But hopefully, we can all come out of that soon and get back to kind of some kind of normality as such. Obviously, with the obviously, you know, you can do them as and when sort of thing when required. But yeah, good to hear that. Anyway, Mr. Thompson. Right, let's crack on with some questions just about your time at QPR, if that's all right.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, the first one could be QPR related, but it's a football generalisation question anyway. Obviously, when growing up as a young boy, did you support any team or did you have a favourite player you like watching and to make you decide, I want to become a pro footballer or try to become a pro footballer?
When I was a kid, my dad's best mate took me to Villa Park as a young kid. I've been causing a bit of trouble. He took me off for the day, ran out of things to do, took me to Villa Park, watched Villa a couple of times. So every now and again, because I really liked it, then they decided to take me as a treat. So I ended up becoming a Villa fan basically through that. I watched Santos came with Pele and Coutinho. They came when I was 14. This is after the World Cup, not 70 World Cup, which I'd obviously watched as much as I could with my dad and my brothers. And then I saw that game, and that was me done. Then I was an Aston Villa fan. But if you're a kid growing up, like obviously at my age, it was like George Best, Dennis Law would be playing, like, and Jerry Francis and Stan Bowles would be playing. But anyone, Tony Curry, anyone that had a little bit of flair about them would always catch your eye. So you'd always be looking at different players and that, like, and then Keegan obviously come through the ranks and that. But any players that really of interest who did something different, at Villa we had Brian Little. So any players that caught your eye. So that's what made you think eventually, oh, I'd love to do that. Although if you watch me play, I was nothing like any of them.
Yeah, I'm sure I've obviously seen you play against us and for us as well, obviously. Okay, mate. Thanks for that. What year did you join QPR?
I think it was 91 to 93. Okay. I mean, like, when you get to my age, it sort of blurs a little bit, but I'm sure it was 91 to 93-ish.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Okay, can you remember what team you made your debut for QPR against?
I think that I came off the bench a few times because Jerry Francis was the manager, and obviously at QPR at that time, because I was sort of the stand-in for Wright and Bright at Palace, because Palace only bought me really to keep them up from going and get relegated from what is now the Premier League. After a year or so of that, I want to play. Jerry rings me. I've known Jerry for years, wanted me to come to QPR. The deal was done pretty quickly. It wasn't really a deal. I wanted to go. It was a chance to play in the English First Division. And he said, there was a load of strikers there, like your Bradley Allens and all them. And he said to me, oh, I've got this centre forward. It was really decent, like. And like, I didn't know at the time, but Des Bulpin spoke to me a couple of years ago, and he said they brought me in because I was a good pro, good attitude. I wasn't going to play a lot of games, but they wanted the other pros to watch another pro, an older pro, how he conduct himself. And we had, in my opinion, one of the best pros ever, Ray Wilkins. So like, obviously it was an example type of thing. So I went there not realising I wasn't going to play a lot, but I think QPR finished best team in London the 2 years we was there. But obviously my contribution wasn't very big. There was myself, I'm just trying to think now, Bradley Allen was there, Roy Wegley, who for me was one of the best footballers I've ever seen. Gary Penrice joined as well, but the main man was obviously Les Ferdinand.
But you played your part though, Gary, you know, in that team as well. You know, I mean, you know, you need your backup players as well. Like even today, players, it's a squad team. You know, it's everyone's effort. Okay, personally, from a personal point of view, you want to play as much as anyone else does, of course.
Oh yeah.
And you know,
when I first went to QPR, I was there for about 2 or 3 weeks, and I'm looking at this kid, and like I had a chat. We were chatting with Jerry one day. I think Ray Wilkins was there, Frank Sibley, and we're chatting away. And I said, like, you know, this kid here you're talking about, he does everything I used to do in my pomp, but infinitely better, which is obviously Les Ferdinand. And like, I think at times Les had a little, not injury problems, but there was little niggles with him at the time. But he came through that, and he just became one of the best players in QPR's history, in my opinion. So like being part of that squad, and I think as I say, we finished high up, but just being part of that squad and me doing my bit to help that squad was more than enough, because I was 31 at the time. So I wasn't expected to play a lot of games. Obviously, myself, I want to play, and I don't want to be left out. But sometimes when you get to a certain age, you look at something and you think, yeah, that's quality. And like, I just had to admire the quality of Les Ferdinand and the development of Les Ferdinand. But as I say, there were some great players there. I mean, like Dennis Beattie was there as well. Like, as I say, Roy was there for a while. Then he left. Simon Barker, Darren Peacock, Alan McDonald, the rest of his soul. Ray Wilkins, the rest of his soul. Jan Stejsko. I mean, you go through that squad. Clive Wilson, David Barsley. You go through that squad. We had a team, a squad of players, and like the team was excellent. The squad was very, very good. Plus, Dougie Friedman was coming up, and Danny Dicio through the ranks, and that Kevin Gallen. So like the whole club was going in the right direction, and I was delighted to be part of that.
Okay, Mr. Thompson, you touched on a couple of players there, the likes of Alan McDonald, Roy Wegley, Ray Wilkins. What would they like to play alongside when you were on the pitch, and even not off the pitch, like doing the club things away from the prying eyes of the fans and stuff? What are they like themselves?
Ray Wilkins was he was the chief organizer. One of the main men. If there's any Mickey taking or anything going on, he was amongst it anyway. But Ray was a lovely fella, very, very personable, got on well with everybody, always giving instructions or help to players and that. Miserable as on the pitch. If you didn't do things right, he'd let you know about it. Expected high standards from everybody, but he just kept everyone on their toes. And he was a brilliant man on the pitch. Alan McDonald was exactly the same. Off the pitch, Alan McDonald was never seen without a cigarette in his mouth, but he breathed QPR. Roy Wegley was quite quiet, quite introverted, to be honest. And I heard Ray talking with Ian Holloway one day and saying Roy beats himself up about every game. He wanted to play the perfect game of football, so he was always disappointed because no one ever plays the game where you make no mistakes at all. And Roy sort of always analysed his mistakes and went over it and over it. So he was quite quiet, but he was a decent lad to be around. And that Barsley was the chief Mickey taker. Barsley, Rufus Brevitt, who came in. Rufus was quite quiet. Clive Wilson was very lively. But as a camp, it was a very bubbly camp. There was always some Mickey taking going on. There was always people's gear being hung up. There was just a constant barrage of abuse for everything, but in a funny way. But it was good. It was a bubbly camp. It was going in the right direction. He had a good manager in Jerry and Frank. The thing was going in the right direction. And as I say, ended up the best team in London for 2 years running. I don't think they got the credit they deserve because they did play some good football at that time. But it was a good time to be around QPR players. Didn't have young, but I was there a lot and not playing. So as any player, you're not happy not playing. When I look at it now, it's a privilege to be part of that because of the names I've just mentioned to you. There's some great players there.
Exactly. I mean, obviously the good camp feeling and stuff helped the team. Hence why we got the result because we were playing well and the camaraderie and stuff on the pitch and off the pitch. You know, if we went out for drinks or meals together, or if some of you
Yeah.
went, you build up that rapport between yourselves, and and obviously it showed it on the pitch. And as you said, we finished top London, which compared to other London teams in the division at the time, we're not the biggest of London clubs, but
Right.
you're part of that team, which is like, well done. I mean, and even at the time, and as you rightly said there, Mr. Thompson, it's like maybe they didn't get the credit for it as much as they should have done, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think if it was Tottenham or one of them, and they was doing as well as we did, everyone would have been kissing their butt, saying, "Oh, look at this Spurs side." QPR did ever so well. Looked at it as a smaller club in London, but as you say, the camaraderie. Ray Wilkins, every month we all went for Italian, and obviously there'd be a few drinks after, a bit of banter and all that. But he made sure we all turned up. We were all together. We spent all our time, obviously, on coaches, travelling or whatever, in hotels, or whatever. So you had to get on with people, but you could see the way that team played, that squad. They were all together. They were all in it. And I think as a club, as a team, to get anywhere, you've got to really do that. That's why a lot of clubs nowadays they train, they play, but you can tell they're not all there. And I think maybe you got foreign players who because of that, they don't really get the English thing. But we had Jan Seiskal, and Jan tried first. I roomed with him straight away, and the first thing he said, "Well, I'm learning English." He never did, but he had a go at it, So the whole thing was very bubbly, very light. We worked very hard. Jerry loved what he called Terror Tuesday, where you did some serious running. But we worked hard, but we played hard, and they got the results. We got the results. I mean, it was a good time to be a player for QPR.
Sure. Okay, mate. Compared to the other teams that you played in, obviously you must have had the same situation with, say, West Brom, Aston Villa. Obviously similar things, like with the camaraderie amongst your team players. Any better or worse than when you were at QPR? Obviously, that's part of being a footballer. You've got to try and get on with everyone because you spend a lot of time with them as well as your family and stuff. So, what the fans don't see behind the scenes obviously stays behind the sceens, unless people want to blurt it out in autobiographies, etc., and so forth. Sometimes it could be a good thing, sometimes it could be a bad thing. But it's great to hear that we had a good team bonding thing around that time you were there, and also you were part of it, Garry. Right, next question. Can you remember who you scored your first QPR goal against?
I think it might have been Chelsea,
Okay.
I'm sure someone sent me a link, and they get them links on Twitter now, and it says 28 years ago to this day. And I looked at it and I thought, is it that the time just flew by. But I'm sure it was a goal. It might have been QPR Chelsea. Okay. We're at Loftus Road, and I'm sure. But I missed a chance about 2 minutes before, half an open goal, and Bradley Allen, I remember Bradley pushing me, saying, "Get on with it." And then, within a few minutes, a chance come. I think the keeper's parried it. I put it in for all of 6 yards, but that'll do for me. I'm happy with that.
The same, mate. Every goal counts,
Yes, okay, exactly.
Right. In all the games that you played for QPR, what was the most memorable game you have played in?
Most memorable game. I think the most interesting game, the game that probably everybody will talk about, I think QPR played Man City, and it was the first game of the new Premier League. Yeah. And we travelled up there for the game. We stayed overnight. We trained in the morning. There's not the, obviously, all the hullabaloo of the Premier League, but they had dancing girls and they had fireworks and all that game. And I was on the bench. I can't remember what I was standing with, and I was going, this will never catch on. It's just all razzmatazz, which obviously was not the brightest idea. But that was quite a memorable game because it was the start of the advent of the Premier League. I was involved with, I think, with the Chelsea game, obviously, because that's half a derby and that. So that was an important game for us. I know I was scoring in that game, if I've got my memory right. Then that was a memorable thing for me. But just being around that team, then we played some serious games. I got suspended for the game where Dennis Bailey scores the hat-trick.
All right.
I got sent off in a reserve game about a week before. I remember Frank or Jerry saying to me, you would have played or you'd have been involved. But Dennis was involved and scored the hat-trick. So that could have been me. Obviously it wouldn't have been, but it could have been.
Yeah. I remember the Man City the first game that with the fireworks and that, obviously because going to the games myself.
Yeah.
And I remember it was like the fireworks and
because it was nothing we'd ever seen before. So we were all like,
or was it a Friday? I can't remember now. I think it was a Monday night.
Might have been a Friday. No, yeah, right. It's a Monday night. Yeah, Monday night football, wasn't it?
Little did we know that how it was going to explode into this big thing now, the Premier League kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that. Obviously, whilst at QPR, who did you room with on away games, or did it vary with different players, or did you have someone in particular that you shared with more than others?
When I first went, I'm at roomed with Jan Stayskill. Then obviously I roomed with Dennis Bailey for a lot of the time, and because Dennis obviously come from Birmingham as well, like, but Dennis was a God-fearing man, and he always read the Bible. Now, if you see what I take to a away game, it's got very little to do with the Bible, but the lads would be in and out of my room and all that. But yeah, I roomed with them. Gary Penrice, when he came, I roomed with him a good while because I knew Penny from Watford, and so I roomed with him. So they were the three main ones I roomed with in all my time there.
Okay, what would they like to room with? Obviously, are they all similar, or are they different in their quirky ways?
Yeah, well, Gary Penrice never sat still. So if he sits down, he gets up to make a cup of tea. He sits down with a cup of tea, has to get up and get a biscuit. Sits down, gets a biscuit, turns the TV over. He cannot sit still. He cannot sleep. He's one of them. He's always doing something. And then when you're trying to go to sleep, say 11 o'clock, 11:30, he wants to talk. Then at 1 o'clock in the morning, he wants to talk. Then 5 o'clock in the morning, he wants to talk. Gaz is always on the go. I mean, I love him. I get really well with him, but he's a lively character, Gary Penrice. Dennis Bailey was very just a quiet lad, introvert, as it were. Like, loved the Bible, read the Bible, didn't like for profanities. So obviously, even though we roomed together, he did hear the odd one for himself. But we got on really well. Jan was learning English, as it were. Jan was very cool and calm, and that, like, he's a good lad, like. But usually, they were the three I roomed with. But usually, I would say Bardsley, Wilson. I think Peacock might have been involved. Simon Barker, Holloway. There was always a prank squad, so they were the ones going around every room causing all sorts of stuff. So it was, even though I was with Dennis Bailey and it was quiet at times, it was never quiet for too long because there's always something going on.
Yeah, cool. It was quite a lively team on and off the pitch. Then.
Oh yeah. You're looking at players that you got characters. You got players that are always doing up to something. They make their own amusement. I mean, nowadays I think the players just go around playing Xbox or travel and have games together. You have to use your imagination there, and obviously ours was overactive at times. Like, but yeah, they were lively people.
I mean, obviously you touched on Gary Penrice. I mean, even on the pitch, he looked at lively. He was always running around. He was always
yeah. Don't stop all the time. We ended up coaching together at Bristol Rovers, and Ian Holloway was the gaffer, and me and Penny were the two assistants. And from the moment he walked in the morning, him and Holly they've known each other since they were 5. They would row about everything. So Ollie'd say, yeah, I'm going to do this shape today with the first thing. Well, what are you doing that for? And it would go on and on. And I'd just go out and take the stuff out and set it all up, come back, they're still rowing. And Phil Kite, the physio, who grew up with them, and Kite would say, they're still in there rowing. And they'd just be arguing, cat and dog. Then they go out, they do the training, laugh and joke and that, but they never stopped talking. They never stopped cracking jokes. They never stopped arguing. They were like a married couple. But as a pair, they're two peas in a pod. You take one foot with the other, they don't work too well. Holloway, when he managing without Penrice, not struggle, but he was never quite the same for him. Like, and Holloway's mad anyway, but he's just lively. In fact, my first game, I think I was just in the stand. I watched the game, got back on the coach, and Holloway was sitting there on the coach explaining to Ray Wilkins how to do a pressing the ball as a midfield duo. And me and myself, there was Darren Peacock and Alan McDonald, and we were sort of laughing. We were saying, well, this is Ray Wilkins. He's trying to tell Ray how to play midfield. But that was Holly's nature, never shy, always got a word to say. And one of them would always be telling people. And me and Ray looking up and sort of smirking at us, like, because Ray's played for England so many times. He's captain England and all that. And Ian Holloway, this kid who's just joined, he's trying to explain to him how to press as a midfield duo. Like, so yeah, Penny and Holly, very, very lively, very bubbly, loud all the time, very chatty, never stop talking.
Oh, I mean, you need all kinds of characters within a
Oh yeah.
Don't you? So it's like, which is good because it keeps you all in the toes, I suppose. Great memories there, Gary. Okay, whilst playing for QPR, what was it like playing at Loftus Road when it was a full house?
Excellent. I mean, I played obviously played for Coventry. I played for West Brom at QPR, especially when we had the turf, AstroTurf. So I played there, and it was always not aggressive, but it was loud and boisterous, and they let you know, the QPR fans, it was an intimidating place to come and play. So when I actually played there, it was brilliant because once you know the fans are with you, and if you wore the shirt and you had to go, they was with you. But they always had a bit of time. they're always special for, obviously they loved Ray. They loved, I'm just trying to think now, Roy Wegley. They loved Roy because he was a number 10, wasn't he? He was like an Istanbul's or one of them. So they loved him. So even when Roy tried a trick that didn't quite go right, they'd be like, oh, there was no, say like if Alan McDonald tries it, he'd be like, oh my God, like, you know, everyone be up in arms. But Roy Wegley tries something that's most outrageous, that's never going to happen. And they'd be like, oh, unlucky son, keep going. But the fans were brilliant because you go there and you know they're right behind you. The noise from that ground at times is fantastic. And that's why now with the lockdown and all that, like, and you, if you watch football and then you listen to them piping the atmosphere through, it's almost embarrassing because you need fans to make the proper atmosphere. But, you know, we got to do what we got at the minute. But to answer your question, the QPR fans, absolutely fantastic.
Okay, I mean, obviously you mentioned there as an opposing player. I mean,
yeah,
ground was quite compact, as you know yourself. I mean, compared to other grounds that you played at, where you had the luxury of fans being quite further away. What was that like as an opposing player? I mean, you know, obviously you've already stated it was like, you know, quite boisterous and stuff, but you know, fans could be touching certain parts of the ground. I mean, like, that'd be unheard of nowadays, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, that within touching distance, I'd be if by the touch line, you could actually 2 steps and you could be in the crowd. So obviously that you can hear them all the time. If there's a lull, you hear all the wags who come out with the statements and that. But they're funny people. They've got good banter, but they're boisterous. They're right behind the team. So as an away player, say like West Brom when we played at QPR, like it's not. I'm trying to think of the right word. But they're very loud, very boisterous, but they're with the team, and it's within the bounds of they give you stick because you're the opposition, and rightly so. But it's never vile stick. It's never like over the top. It's good. Like as Wally Downs, who I worked with at Brentford, and I knew it from Crystal Palace. Wally rang me after I'd been at QPR for a few weeks, and he went, "Oh, Bomber, how much stick you taking?" And I went, no, well, I've been at the sub, so I've come off the bench a few times. Like, he said, oh, don't worry, you'll be getting plenty. But when you get plenty, you'll know they'll like you. And that was the sort of thing, like, so I'm like, okay, I'll have that, like. But Wal was a QPR fan all his life. Yeah. So he sort of told me, he said, listen, once you hear that place going, he says, you'll hear nothing like it. And he's right, the atmosphere there, for a small ground as well, the atmosphere is unbelievable. And when I was there, people were talking about adding another tier on because they wanted to get more fans in. But I don't think they could ever do it, like. But if you walk out to that ground and there's no one there and you look round, but you can imagine what's going to be like. Time you at 3 o'clock when you walk out of the pitch of the opposition, it's I would say frightening. It can be intimidating unless you're you can cope with it all. But it's a great place to play. If you got anything about you want to show you can play there.
Sure. Okay. Thanks for that. Obviously, next question. Do you keep in contact with any of your ex-QPR teammates from your playing days while before social media? And now, obviously, with social media in the world's prying eyes, 24/7.
I think we're all the same because we're so busy doing what we do and making a living. We sort of see people. I mean, I saw Les a couple of years ago and we had a chat. I've just got onto it. There's a group WhatsApp thing and I've just spoke. Les is on that, so I spoke to Les on that. Clive Wilson, I spoke to. David Barsley, I think he's in America. He contacted me out of the blue. I woke up one morning and I got a text from Bars like, and obviously there was a bit of abuse flying around in it. But yeah, so I answered back and it went on for a bit. So I've kept in contact with him. I bumped into Rufus Brevitz at when Villa played Fulham in the player final. I think it was the first one where we got beat. That's 3 years ago now. And Rufus was there doing some radio work, so we had a great chat there. It's like we don't see each other for 10 years. You bump into each other, you're like best mates, and you're chatting away. Like so, I don't keep in contact with people, and they say that for me, Villa players and play with Villa or whatever. But the fact Alan McInally is probably one of the few people I ever keep in contact with, only because we were so tight and we ring each other all the time. But generally, as soon as I bump into someone, we chat as if it was like yesterday. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, well, that's good. Even though you might not have seen each other for years or months or weeks, etc.
Yeah.
Now, if you're doing radio work at games and you bump, as you said, you bump into Rufus Brevett or whoever it was, then they'll chat, and then you think, oh, we need more time. But then you go about your business and stuff. I suppose it's like normal people, like going about their life as well.
Yeah. Everyone's too busy trying to make a living.
Yeah, they may have on their hands or such. But yeah, great to hear anyway. Next, just a couple more questions. That's all right, please.
Yeah, no problem.
What teammate had the worst dress sense at QPR whilst you're playing for the club?
Well, I would say Alan McDonald, God rest his soul. In every week, I would imagine Ray Wilkins would hang his gear up.
Yeah.
So when you walked in, his gear was hanging out because it was a show to everybody. This is the worst outfit you've ever seen. So I would say Macca got a fair bit of abuse. Bardsley got a little bit, but I think because Bardsley was so quick and so witty, they didn't get into him too much. Darren Peacock took a fair bit, but then Darren's like 6'3", but because of the long hair, he always looked like a hippie, as it were. So his gear never really went with how he looked. But I think it's mainly them. Penny got some serious. When Penny joined, he took some serious stick. I try to melt into the background with my gear and that, just your jeans and t-shirts and all that. But every now and again, my trainers or whatever get hung up. But generally, they kept me out of it. They didn't give me too much abuse. But I would say, yeah, probably the worst one would be Alan McDonald. He took some serious abuse in the time I remember. Okay.
And was there any jokers at the club whilst you were there?
The jokers?
Yeah.
Bardsley be the main one. Bardsley and McDonald, when they were together, they were like two little kids, and they'd have their own little half language or whatever, and they'd giggle at certain things, and they were like two children, and they were funny when you watched them because you could see them scheming and saying, "Oh, we'll get this done, we'll get in the dressing room, we'll do that." So them two was always tight, always doing stuff. Penrice was always busy trying to get involved with what was going on. So if Penrice was doing it, Holloway was always trying to get involved in it. Most of them were. For London people, they were very cool. There was not like they went to. It was a loud club, a bubbly club, but the practical jokers or the jokers would be them. They was at the hub of everything. Clive Wilson got involved in a fair bit. Simon Barker was always. Simon's a lovely kid, but he joined in, but he was never really. He was very. He's ended up PFA, something to do with PFA. So he's very officious and that. So Simon was involved, he'd laugh and all that, but he wouldn't get too involved in it. But them were the main culprits. I'm just trying to think if there was anyone else. It's always McDonald was always in there and Bardsley. But I think everything that came, any nonsense, you knew them two were involved in most of it, what was going on.
Oh, okay, mate. Just two more questions for myself. Okay. For home and away games, obviously players psych themselves up, or you play music and stuff like that. Every team, every players are different. Yeah. Any music played whilst you're at QPR, or what was the routine of the players and stuff in the change room before home and away games?
I think like every team around that time, they had a jukebox, they carried a jukebox, and usually there was someone put in charge of looking after the music. It was one of the younger lads who were more hip, as it were. Razor would come in and he'd try and get, I'm exaggerating saying Max Bygraves or something like that, but he'd want something a bit more relaxed on, and they'd want something to go boom, 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 boom. So like, there's always be a bit of an argument about it, but Ray never got his sort of music on. Jerry would come in and he'd go out again because Jerry couldn't stand all that. And Jerry's like, Jerry Francis, he carries himself in a certain way that once he comes in, everyone goes quiet and he'll say his piece and then he'll get out. Jerry don't stand on ceremony. That Frank Sibley would always join in a little bit with the banter and all that. But usually the young kids kept hold of the music, and it was always house or whatever was going on at the time, which I was getting to that, so I'm in my 30s, so like I'd still listen to that bit of rap or whatever. But some of the stuff I heard then, and which I heard for years after, was so. I'm showing my age now. Like it was so crap that I can't believe people played it. They used to take abuse for it, but the kids loved it.
Yeah, of course. I mean, if it helped the team or whoever liked it up, and then everyone else done their own stuff, then obviously the results showed on the pitch. As you say, we finished top.
Yeah.
Great achievement. Yeah. Just a final question for myself, please, Garry, if that's all right.
Yes.
Me and the QPR fans watching this interview, an overall summary of your time spent playing for QPR, please.
Extremely enjoyable. Frustrating because I didn't play, because I wasn't the Garry Thompson that QPR fans saw play for Coventry or play for West Brom or Sheffield Wednesday. So I didn't really show them how good I could have been. But then I suppose I was 31 and my career was, I played till I was 37. So I thought my career was winding down, but the frustration is I never showed how good I could be. But then again, I was up against the mighty power that is Les Ferdinand, so I wasn't really going to get much of a look in. But on the whole, on and off the pitch, I had a lovely time. I mean, I had a lovely time at most of my clubs, but enjoyed the QPR atmosphere because it was bubbly, it was lively. Crystal Palace was exactly the same. But QPR, because they were winning, they were doing well. The camaraderie, the bonding, the togetherness with the crew was better. It's always better when you're winning. And at QPR, we made a habit of winning over the 2-year period.
Okay, mate, and obviously you're part of that squad, which I thank you for being part of the squad, and I hope you just said you had a great time down there. That's kind words from yourself, Mr. Thompson. Just want to say thank you very much for joining myself, Deejay Ranger, on QPR Fans and Players TV Home and Away, for doing the Q&A interview with us. That's it for myself, Deejay Ranger, with the one, the only Mr. Garry Thompson, for QPR Fans and Players TV Home and Away. We're out of here. Come on, you on.
Come on, you R'ss.